Pathological politicians just used you as hostages in their push to further expand government and insult the founders via their offensive and rank COVID relief and budget legerdemain. Hi, everyone. I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. You know, last night, the U.S. Senate passed its combined COVID-19 relief, $900 billion, and omnibus stopgap budget spending bill, nearly $1.4 trillion, to fund the federal government through September of next year. It's a monstrously disgusting bill totaling 5,593 pages that was so big, it had to be moved with a wheelbarrow across the Capitol. It was so physically enormous that, as Kentucky Representative Thomas Massie, a Republican, pointed out, none of his House colleagues could have read it in the scant hours they had had to see it. Only 6 senators, all Republicans, opposed it, and they were Rand Paul of Kentucky, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, Rick Scott of Florida, Ted Cruz of Texas, Mike Lee of Utah, and Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. 6. And they could have opposed it for the simple fact that any honest person would not vote for a bill if he or she had not been able to read it in toto.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Or they could have opposed it for the myriad horrifying, insulting, unconstitutional, immoral spending plans they saw during their quick scans. This is a combined spending creature that, as Thomas Massie tweeted Monday afternoon, will see $10 million showered on Pakistani gender programs, which, as Massie and Newsmax's Emerald Robinson tweeted, will see $700 million sent to Sudan, and which the bill itself reveals will send hundreds of millions of dollars to Egypt, Ukraine, Israel, and other foreign governments. It includes $4 billion to go to Chuck Schumer's darling New York City to bail out its already failing subway system that was made even worse by Democrat Mayor Bill de Blasio's arbitrary and unbelievable COVID-19 lockdowns and business closures. It includes $13 billion for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And enjoy finding that in the Constitution. You can take your time because, of course, it's not there. With $11.2 billion of that supposedly earmarked to be spent on subsidizing government-favored agribusinesses. That on top of the fact that in the spring, the Trump administration already thumbed its nose at the Constitution and instituted a $19 billion direct subsidy package to help agribusinesses. Then there's the added wonder of the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act, the darling of Kentucky GOP Senator Mitch McConnell, that will create a new federal authority over the sport of horse racing, imposing regulations and showering money to, as USA Today says, have major impacts on one of the Commonwealth's most prominent industries by addressing medical and safety standards in horse racing. And while we're talking animals, who can forget Planned Parenthood, the founder of which, Margaret Sanger, viewed some humans as no better than beasts and wanted them culled through abortion and selective breeding. As with the last COVID-19 CARES Act portion called the Payment Protection Program, which saw the offensive organization get 80 million tax dollars, Planned Parenthood will receive cash through this program again, although the exact amount remains to be seen. And even though many of us had already chosen to avoid movie theaters because we were turned off by the leftist messages Hollywood moguls insisted on throwing onto the screen, well, they'll be getting our money anyway, and so will Broadway, which, again, was shut down by collectivists like de Blasio and Andrew Cuomo. That redirection of our wealth comes to, cue the cash register sound, $15 billion. The bill also includes, as Representative Doug Lamborn of Colorado, a Republican, noted, $23.9 billion for Green New Deal loan guarantees, $10 billion to bail out the USPS, $180 million increase for the EPA, $40 million for the Kennedy Center, and of course the $10 million for gender programs in Pakistan. This legislation lays the groundwork for a, quote, climate security advisory council, end quote, and contains COVID-19 relief, which is overly broad. For example, this legislation includes a $300 weekly federal supplemental unemployment benefit that will, unfortunately, make one half of Americans receive more by staying home than if they went back to their jobs. It also provides a $600 stimulus check to all Americans, whether they are employed or not. Oh, and the bill also includes millions in handouts for Microsoft and Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, as well as, well, let's allow the Associated Press via Bay News 9 to offer some more of the greatest hits. The bill showers money on vaccines, testing, health providers, $69 billion. Delivers more than $30 billion for procurement of vaccines and treatments, distribution funds for states, and a strategic stockpile. Adds $22 billion for testing, tracing, and mitigation, $9 billion for healthcare providers, and $4.5 billion for mental health. I don't want to make light of it, but can't understand the stresses looking at this idiocy. But wait, there's more. Schools and universities, $82 billion. Delivers $54 billion to public K-12 schools affected by the pandemic, and $23 billion for colleges and universities. $4 billion would be awarded to a Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund. Nearly $1 billion for Native American schools. And rental assistance, $25 billion. Provides money for a first ever federal rental assistance program. Funds to be distributed by state and local governments to help people who have fallen behind on their rent and may be facing eviction. Because, of course, their jobs have been shut down because governors and mayors have closed their businesses. But wait, there's more. Includes an almost 400-page water resources bill that targets $10 billion for 46 Army Corps of Engineers flood control, environmental, and coastal protection projects. Boosts clean energy programs like research and development, efficiency incentives, and tax credits. Phases out super pollutant hydrochlorofluorocarbons. Education. That includes a bipartisan agreement to forgive about $1.3 billion in federal loans to historically black colleges and universities, and simplify college financial aid forms. And it boosts the maximum Pell Grant for low-income college students by $150 to $6,495, and get this, offers second chance Pell Grants to incarcerated prisoners. I think I'm starting to understand what it feels like to be a prisoner. It also creates new Smithsonian museums, establishes the Women's History Museum and the National Museum of the American Latino as new Smithsonian museums located near the National Mall. And of course there's this. It adds, after the scandal involving Boeing 737 MAX crashes, legislation to beef up the Federal Aviation Administration's aircraft certification process. Ching! Feeling upwards, that's government. Addresses human factors, automation in the cockpit, and international pilot training while authorizing nearly $275 million over the next 5 years to carry out the legislation. Because, as we all know, that giant corporation Boeing shouldn't be responsible for handling the liabilities of its own inventions, and neither should any other airplane manufacturer. Not in America, the land of liberty. Others should be enslaved for that. And make no mistake, this is enslavement. Regardless of the anger people may feel when comparing all these monumental handouts to their paltry relief checks, there's something much bigger afoot here. Yes, the relief is insulting for many. As the Texas Tribune observes, the most direct impact the legislation will have on the average American is a $600 payment to individuals making less than $75,000 a year. The payment will be reduced for those making between $75,000 and $99,000 and will not apply to individuals who earn more than $99,000 a year. The bill will reinstate supplemental unemployment benefits of $300 per week. As we noted before, this is half of what was allocated for individuals in the previous COVID-19 economic package. But the deeper points are these. First, unless Congress actually is handing back tax cash, not one penny of these relief funds for hurting Americans is actually sanctioned by the U.S. Constitution. Yes, most of the financial hardships people are experiencing right now are the result of state and local government lockdowns. But the federal government has no constitutional power to address those problems other than to see Donald Trump sue states and cities for breaches of the Bill of Rights and other constitutional strictures, such as the contract clause. Showering debt-financed money on us, on all of us who are victimized by this, is just not in the Constitution in any way whatsoever. So not only are the international pork projects, the huge bailouts of the New York City subway and theaters, the new bureaucracies and special interest-based museums, not only are they massively infuriating when compared to the measly checks Americans might receive, all of it, including most of the checks Americans might receive, are not sanctioned by the Constitution. But, as Rahm Emanuel told Hillary Clinton,
you never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
And so they'll spend this money via debt and thus turn newborns into workhorses for their devilish, evil political plans, claiming all the while they're saving Americans when they're actually enslaving Americans. And then they'll expect us not only to not complain, but to thank them for it. It's like my dad used to say, they spit in our faces and they call it rain. Unbelievable. It gets you so fired up. Actually, let me try an alternative here as I sign off to do a positive. I just want to thank all of you for being part of this great circle of friends and being kindred spirits. All these things that these people do, these parasitic politicians, can get us fired up, and justifiably so. We have to hold on to principle. But even as we get fired up, I kind of try to celebrate the fact that I have friends and kindred spirits in you, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, please make sure that you like and subscribe if you do like and you'd like to be subscribed on YouTube. I'll see you in the comments section. Share these with friends. Please share these with friends everywhere you possibly can. We'll see you in Facebook, MRC-TV in Facebook, also on Parler, on Twitter, and if you want to find us on Instagram, we're also there as well. And please visit MRC-store to get some great MRC items. And of course, the main website, MRCTV.org, to find out what the whole team is doing. For MRC-TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.